Hey, I'm Nile Rodgers, and thanks for watching Talks at Google.
Joining us today with his Hitmaker, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Nile Rodgers.
How you doing? How are you?
So Nile, welcome to Google.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about your background, your music, your Fold Festival, obviously.
A triple Grammy winner, by the way.
Exactly.
Like Grammy winning, triple winner. Dude, took me all those years to do it, man. No, sorry, go ahead.
We've brought the Hitmaker along as well, your trusty sidekick. So why don't you just get us started? Tell us a little bit about how you first got involved in music, and during your childhood, how did that kind of influence you?
Well, we're in a neighborhood that's actually just a few blocks away from where I was born. And back in the day, when dinosaurs walked the earth, music was part of the standardized American curriculum. So they taught music in school. I learned how to read music in school, and I just kept going. It was one of the few things that I actually liked doing. And before I knew it, I was doing it professionally. I played in various high school orchestras and junior high school orchestras, and my first professional job was with Sesame Street. I was probably around 17, 18, something like that. And then I went from Sesame Street to the Apollo Theater in 1 year. And about a year after I worked at the Apollo Theater, I wound up going on the road with a group called New York City, and we were the opening act for the Jackson 5 for a bit. And a few years after that, I wrote my first single, and it was a hit. But I didn't get a Grammy, but it was a hit. Sold millions of copies. And then my second record was a hit, my third and my fourth and my fifth and my sixth. And what was really interesting, it hit me the other day that I didn't work with a star until I worked with Diana Ross.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I worked with a star. And it was like a superstar. And by the time I worked with Diana Ross, I actually didn't even have to work again. I could have just quit the music business and lived off of royalties. The good old days, the time when we used to get paid, you know. I mean, I really could have, because at that point I had already written We Are Family, which was a huge copyright, and Le Freak and Good Times, and then Sugar Hill Gang sampled that and gave me Rapper's Delight. I think the suggested retail price for Rapper's Delight was $1.98 for one song for a single, or it was $2.99.
Yeah.
So it was ridiculous. After Rapper's Delight, I honestly could have said, okay, I'm hanging up my guns and I'm going to watch the world. But
And then your family was also always very supportive of music. You were surrounded as a child kind of by musicians. Did they push you one way or the other, or just kind of organically, like you said, one step after another, and it just kept going?
You're really funny, man. Did they push me? No, my parents were heroin addicts. They were loving and wonderful, but were not exactly motivated or motivators. But they were awfully cool. My stepfather was maybe one of the coolest guys I've ever met, but they were, full-time heroin addicts, and so I had to motivate myself. The reason why I had such cool jobs, I think, is because I started working at a young age. I had a very powerful work ethic that hasn't diminished one bit to this very day.
Yeah.
So, I actually think it was natural for me to have a full-time job at Sesame Street at 19 years old.
Yeah. And you also moved between New York and LA, kind of the opportunities arose naturally there as well.
Yeah, well, I was bi-coastal, and it was mainly because, I wasn't a legal adult, so I had to live with some parental figure. So I moved to California to live with my grandparents on different occasions. But my childhood was so weird because I usually was the only something in the school. So I was baptized Roman Catholic. So I started out at Catholic school, and because of the neighborhood that I was living in, I would be the only black person in my class. That was the same in New York as well as Los Angeles. So when I got to Los Angeles, my first trip, I was 7 years old. I felt very uncomfortable. I felt like I didn't belong. But I found that there was one place I really did belong: movie theaters. And Los Angeles had lots of them. And I played hooky for 75 days straight. I set the national truancy record for parochial school at 7 years old, and I was kicked out of the parochial school system. That's actually my proudest. Forget the triple Grammys. 75 days straight without getting caught. And you may wonder, how did I do that? Well, in Catholic school, they give you money, an offering to give in every day. And I took that money and I would pay off a wino and say, write a note, because I knew that a wino, even a really inebriated one, his handwriting looked a hell of a lot better than mine. And I would give that to whatever authority figure I'd run into. Excuse my son Nile, he has asthma, and he took off the first half of the day because he had a really high fever, but he feels great now, so he would like to go see all of those movies that you have playing in your theater. And I did that every single day, and I really got bold when I know I'm going way off topic here, but I really got bold one day because I just wanted to see, could I really get away with this? So I walked up to police officers and I whipped out my note. Man, that note was like gold. Whipped out the note and said, I'm suffering from asthma, but the attack went away and now I got a few hours to kill, and I want to go see this movie, but I don't know if I can get there in time. And the cop said, we'll try. It was so cool. So those were the good old days in LA. But then after they caught me, they kicked me out, and I came back to New York, and I went to school here for a while. And it's so different because in those days we were really romantic. Everything, like, the next day was going to be heaven. And so coming back to New York to go to school was really weird, because in LA, school was going to the movies. In New York, school was dreadful. But somehow I made really great friends, did well, and I learned to play music.
That's what I was going to ask you next. So where did the guitar then fit in on this journey?
Well,
when did you realize the guitar was the instrument for you?
Well, so it was all about the culture. So at the time, they were teaching classical music in school, which I love, by the way. And the last instrument that I played classical music on was the clarinet. And the B-flat clarinet, the written range is the same as the guitar. So I grew up during the hippie, anti-war years, that sort of thing, the early 70s, late 60s. That was my sort of era. I don't really know any cool, like, hippies, like anti-war songs on the clarinet, I can see like Woody Guthrie with the clarinet. So it was definitely not the instrument, the anti-war instrument. So I picked up the guitar, and the fact that it was the same written range as the clarinet was amazing, because now I had tons of books that had been provided for me in the school, wonderful school system. And I had lots of etudes to practice, and guitar players are notoriously bad music readers. And that gave me a serious one-up on almost all the studio players here in New York City. So I was playing on records right away. I was gigging instantly. As soon as people found out that, hey, we got that guy with the weird hair and he can read music, hire him to do your television commercials. I was making money. So 16, 17 years old, I was very self-sufficient. And
you were gigging with the greats. I read the story about you and Jimi Hendrix.
It was
kind of, what was that story, or were there other idols and mentors during that phase that?
Yes, so on 8th Street between 6th and McDougal, Jimi Hendrix was building his studio. As a matter of fact, that's where I recorded Random Access Memories with Daft Punk. When he was building that studio, it was, prior to him building it, it was a nightclub called Generation. And we used to jam at Generation all the time. And when Hendrix was in the neighborhood doing the studio, you would see him around, you know, jamming at different clubs. So in the old days, we didn't have like Doppler radar. And I remember one day my band, we were working at the bitter end. And we knew that it was going to snow, but we had no idea it was going to snow. It was so much snow, it was like a joke. You know, you tried to open the door and it was like the snow was like that high. So we went over to this guy's loft, and the loft was a loft / recording studio / macrobiotic restaurant / political headquarters / whatever, you know. And we went over there and we started jamming. And Jimmy walked in and started jamming with us. And we all had this big groovy circle of everybody just like, you know, doing a freestyle jam like in the movie Spinal Tap. Like, man, we're gonna do our freestyle. So anyway, we were just freestyle jamming, and it was wonderful. I believe that the composition we improvised was brilliant and genius. I was on acid, so, and so was everybody else in the room. So everybody else believed it was brilliant and genius too. And the thing that was funny is we were just jamming, and we seemed to, everybody went to the same tonal centers, and we got it, and it was perfect jam. And then finally, as the whole groove backed down, right, to complete tacit, we hear this voice come out, and it was Jimmy, and he went, did anybody record that, man? The recording engineer was standing right next to me with a bass. I was like, well, I guess not. So, you know, that's how it was around here. This is such an awesome neighborhood. It was such a great childhood. And it really gave me the tools. Like, I didn't know that I'd wind up, I knew I'd probably be a composer, and maybe a conductor, an arranger, but I didn't know that I'd be a producer, which basically is the same as the director of a film. It's your job, it's your responsibility to bring in the finished product. So you're the coach, you're the psychologist, you're everything, because, you know, you hire the people, you fire the people. And typically when I produce, I really run the show. Like, a lot of times I do records, the artist who's the star, they don't even know the other people who are playing on their record. And that's because I come from the old school of studio musicians where we would just show up and people wouldn't know me, that a contractor would bring me in and they would say, who's that guy with the weird hair? Because I've always had weird hair. Who's that dude with the green hair and the cornrows and the thing coming out? I don't know, he's not, but he can read music really well, so let's see. So I still make records on some level like the old school way. I think there's a certain excitement and enthusiasm when you don't know the music, you're completely unfamiliar, and you're trying to make the contractor or the artist or whomever is responsible for you being in that seat happy. Yeah, so I treat everybody like that. I mean, if you're a big star, that's it. Usually, like, I got a phone call today. I just wrote a song for a really big star. The head of her record company called me and said, "No, this shit's amazing. This is so good. This is great. She's in town for the next few days. Maybe you guys can finish the song. But someone else, another really big star, wants to work on the record with you, and she's in Australia. What do we do? I'm like going, dude, you're the record company. What do we do? I like this record so much. If she doesn't do her part, let's finish it by the weekend. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm fine. I love the challenge of waking up and knowing that your situation is impossible, and somehow at the end of the day going, man, this sounds like a hit record. Yeah. So
you've beaten addiction, you've beaten cancer. Did you ever think that
beaten it temporarily, just
knock on, hopefully, right? Did you ever think you were going to give up music and try something else? Are there other passions that you were trying to pursue on the side?
Well, I've sort of, I didn't give up music. I can't do that, I don't believe. I think it's really in my DNA. It's just who I am. But I did realize I had some sort of talent for writing. Yeah. I wrote my memoir, which people love. I've turned down God knows how many filmmakers who've wanted to do the story. I mean, really famous ones. And the only reason why I did that is because I've chosen to do it as a Broadway show first. So I've already completed Act 1, and we read last week, and my producer said it was the best cold reading of a musical he's ever heard in his life. And he says, Jesus Christ, most people would end Act 1 with We Are Family. You start your show with it. It's like, and he's like, what else is coming? And it was like hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. He was like, whew. So I just said, well, you know, that's the story arc. The songs support the story arc, and that's how I hear it. And you know, so.
Well, one of your latest projects, you've moved into music festivals now, right? So the Fold Festival now in its second year here in Long Island, debuting in London. You're working with Kesha, Joe Jonas, Bette Midler.
Yeah, Earth, Wind and
Fire. Fire.
Village People. You know, so
how did you kind of pick the lineup, and how did Fold come to be what it is today?
Okay, so the way that Fold originated was 4 years ago. I was in Montreux, Switzerland, and they wanted to give me an award. I was like, I don't understand. Well, actually, what we really want to do now is we want to honor you. I was like, wait a minute. The last time I was here and we honored somebody, what happened? I said, that guy went to a Rolling Stones concert. Afterwards, he fell down the steps and he died. No way. Don't honor me. That's what you do at the end of a person's career. I says, why don't we honor the music? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, why don't we honor the music that makes you want to honor me? He didn't quite get the concept, but I called Mark Ronson, Grace Jones, a bunch of people, and I called a bunch of friends, and we put on an 11-hour festival of dance music. Like, we did a festival within the jazz festival, and it was so incredibly successful. I'm sort of like chasing that high again. I don't know if I could ever pull that off, but it was just unbelievable. And I think the thing that makes Fold really unique is that you can tell that we all love each other. Yeah. Like, when you go to a concert, even though we're all competitive, right? You know, like, you go out and go, yeah, we smoke so-and-so. There's a great story. Wow. No, it's just too cool. So I will not mention artist A, but artist A decided they wanted to be the star and get top billing, and Rick James was not the star. And Rick James went out and smoked, and as he was going back to his dressing room, he went, your turn. And, you know, so we all have that thing. But at my Fold Festival, because everybody, we're all friends, we're not trying to smoke the other person. We're actually trying to lift each other up. So it's become this thing where the people feel the vibe, the bands feel the vibe, It's incredible. I mean, last year Pharrell said, "Man, I've never had so much fun." Janelle Monáe, incredible. Chaka Khan, Keith Urban and I, Keith Urban and I turned it into Woodstock. It's like we just went off and started jamming for 15 minutes. You know, so that's what I'm trying to build on, that old festival feeling where...
Because you went to Woodstock as a teenager.
I was a kid.
You performed at Live Aid, sorry.
Right.
Did those festivals kind of influence you in shaping Fold and how it is today?
It was a little different. I mean, at Woodstock, I was a kid, so I wasn't going to be invited up on the stage, that's for sure. But at Live Aid, Live Aid I played. It's actually great. Funny story. Oh, man. How much time do we have?
You got time, don't worry.
This is funny. Okay, so Live Aid, here we are. Live Aid, getting ready to go on stage. Right before we go on stage, Lionel Richie calls us all in a room. And like, if you look at the video of Lionel, I mean, it's like every big star. It's like Madonna, blah, I mean, everybody calls us all in a room. And he says, you know, we have a great sound engineer, Bob Clearmountain, who happened to be my normal sound engineer. It's like, I'm with him every day. Yeah, he is great, but, you know, he's Bob. He says, well, we have Bob Clearmountain mixing our sound. So because of the way that the stage is, you have to stand, you know, you would have like a mic here, a mic here, a mic here, a mic here, and so on, so on, and so forth. And it was a huge setting, and Bob Clearmountain was mixing the sound way out in center field. So Lionel tells all of us who are professionals, like himself, we may not have had as many hit records, but we still do the same thing. So he says, so whatever you do, don't take the microphone out of the stand, because Bob is cueing from where you're standing. He'll know he's on mic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have to leave your mic in the stand and don't move. So when it comes up to when it comes time to do your vocal bit, just stand right in place and go, there comes a time, whatever, you know, there's a choice we're making. So we play the intro. Paul Schaefer's the band leader. Do 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 do. Starts with Lionel. Pop. There comes a time when we all Lionel. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our. Now, the next person to come in is Harry Belafonte. So Harry is at his spot, but Lionel's already moved over here. So he turns on the mic there. No Harry Belafonte. So nothing comes. Harry Belafonte is singing. And so Eric Clapton is next to me and goes, wow! And I'm like standing there just trying to play the song diligently and read the chart. So everybody figures like I'm the new kid in town, even though it's 85. I've been making hit records for 7 years or something. But, I didn't do big rock and roll concerts. So everybody figures, I'm so excited, it must be me, right? It can't be Eric. So if you go on YouTube and you look at We Are the World, you'll see all these big rock stars turn around and look at me and go. And I'm going, of course I don't do that. I mean, but I'm saying, it's the superstar. But, you know, that's the kind of fun kind of atmosphere I like to have at my festival. I think it's like music to me is a living, breathing thing. It's not perfect every night. Like, you know, we're still an old school band. We don't have like secret backing tracks running and stuff like that. And I know nowadays most...
Don't worry.
See, I told you things are imperfect. Yes. But you know, the thing, those obstacles and those variables, that's part of performing, right? that's the cool thing. I mean, it's the energy that goes into it, the love, the precision. You know, we can play. It's pretty obvious we know how to play. So every time that we make a mistake, to us, it's funny.
Yeah.
And it's just part of live performing. So I've tried to bring that kind of vibe to the festivals, and you'll find that, or at least what I've observed, is that you have less violence.
Yeah.
It's like magic. You have fewer problems. People just seem to become part of your thing. We invite people on the stage. When we play, we have like total strangers come up on stage. And that's why like these incidents that have just happened lately really break my heart, that you could have such incredible violence at music establishments, where, the girl, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, the artist who was killed, and she, according to what they said on the news, she was reaching out to a fan with open arms, and he just shoots her. And then, of course, the horrible, and this was also in the same city, at the club Pulse, where a guy just goes down and like guns down, 50 people. It's like, I mean, in my heart, music has always been this sort of safe thing. Like I was the one black kid in this class who didn't fit. I was the one so-and-so. But man, put me on the clarinet, I fit. I might be sitting second chair, but I still fit. I fit in the orchestra. I would fit with the other musicians. I try and run my sessions the same way. I try and make everybody feel like we're all the same. It's just...
You started We Are Family, the foundation, after 9/11 as well, kind of in the aftermath.
Well, that was a segue, yeah.
That was kind of similar, right? That you're trying to bring happiness to the world and spread that mission, right, through music.
Yeah, well, what happened exactly was, so my charity is called the We Are Family Foundation, based after a song I wrote. 3 of my friends were in the first plane that was crashed into the North Tower on September 11th. And it was, I mean, just mind-boggling, one, that anyone could do something so horrific, but the fact that I had 3 people that I knew on one airplane, the first airplane, just seeing what are the odds of that. And it just happened that I had been in a film with Nelson Mandela, and somebody from South Africa was watching that film, so they're in a different time zone. So even though this event was playing out early in the morning here, it was later in the afternoon there. And they called me up and they said, "Nile, you should redo your song, We Are Family, to help usher in a sense of healing." As a composer, that sounded so weird to me. I was like, no, We Are Family, that's just a Sledge's song, and it's about their family. And they said, no, but you don't understand that We Are Family is played at bar mitzvahs and weddings and this and all these celebratory events. And I reluctantly went along with it because it just didn't make sense to me artistically. Well, now, what are we now, 12 years later, 11 years later, we have a wonderful organization that does incredible work all around the world. We've affected, I would have to say, if not billions, certainly more than 1 billion people. And it's probably one of the best parts of my life. My charity, Jess is over there. She first came to our charity as a volunteer. I think she was oh no, you were a mentor. Volunteer. Now she's like the boss. Yes, Jess, what do I do today? Yeah, it's having the We Are Family Foundation has changed my life. I mean, the way that we interact with kids all over the world, and our programs that we've generated are unbelievable. We have TEDx Teen, which has become huge. We've built schools in, I would say, at least 17, if not 18 countries. we've done a lot. We've impacted quite a few people.
Yeah. So we're going to open it up to audience Q&A as well, if you guys want to start queuing up.
Q&A.
But let's now talk about the Hitmaker, sitting right next to you.
Wait a minute. One thing that's really awesome is that right before we started, a gentleman walked up to me and said, "Wow, I heard, yeah, it's so cool that you work with Daft Punk." And this is a true story. You can show yourself if you're brave enough. He walked up to me and he says, "Did they let you see their faces?" So as I was getting mic'd, I said to him, "Dude, that that was the dumbest question in the world." Like you think they're sitting around the studio, "Oh man, it's 150 degrees inside. We can be really creative now." Anyway, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Dominique. Thanks so much for being here, and thank you so much for creating some of my favorite music. We are family, Le Freak, and Daft Punk. This music that transports me to like a different time and a different place. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
My question for you is, how do you, as a producer, engender creativity in the people that you work with? How do you balance, directing them and just getting the creativity to come out of them? What's your approach?
It's different based on the artist's personality. But the one thing that I try and do is make you understand that I absolutely have your best interest at heart. That I'm very aware of the fact that after we finish the record, it's going to say, "Daft Punk, produced by Nile Rodgers." Your name is going to be really big, and my name is going to be really small. So, it's all about the artist, and I'm just trying to help them visualize and bring to fruition whatever artistic ideas they may have. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, we actually make them better than what they thought they could do. You're welcome.
Hi, Nile. Thank you so much for making all this amazing music. I have tremendous respect for your work. My question is actually similar to what our colleague said. What was the most challenging session that you've ever been on, and how did you make the record happen at the end of the day? Also, Jerry says hi.
Oh, cool. My Jerry?
Jerry Barnes.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, great. That's my bass.
And maybe you can tell us as well how the song evolved in challenging session.
I'm trying to think, what do I consider hard? Okay. The hardest session, when I think in terms of what it was and what it morphed into, would probably be Let's Dance by David Bowie. And it wasn't because it was hard technically. It was a spiritual and artistic communications problem that I thought existed, but it didn't. It's probably easier to show you than to explain some abstract stuff. But so when we were doing the album Let's Dance, before David and I had written one note of music, we had gone all around New York City, going to different museums and different places that had huge repositories of records and rock and roll iconography and things like that. And we didn't write any music. We just wanted to look at stuff. So after about a week or two of looking and listening, David came to my apartment and he says, he had something behind his back, and he went, "Nah, darling, I want my record to sound like this." And he basically wanted the record to sound like this picture. And the picture was Little Richard in a red suit. I happen to wear red pants today. Red suit. His coif was like red, and he was getting into a red Cadillac convertible. But I knew that that photo didn't represent the past, even though you can understand, you could tell what year it was by the model of the Cadillac. What that photo showed, it looked like something from the future. So he was trying to say that he wanted to make a record that would sound like we just made it today, no matter what year it was. That's what it meant. That's what that red picture meant. And I knew that's what he meant. So he walked into my bedroom about a week later, and he says, Nile, darling. For some reason, Nile, the word Nile always was followed with the word darling. He said, Nile, darling, I just wrote this last night. I think this could be a hit. It goes something like this. That's weird, because we had just walked around for 2 weeks and we had listened to all this really cool music. Everything we listened to was cutting edge and incredible. And to me, this sounded like a folk song. Not a bad one, but like just, like, na, na, na. And he was singing, let's dance, dun, 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 dun. So I immediately thought that he was pulling a trick on me. I thought he was trying to see if I was just some like sycophantish wacky dude who wanted a paycheck or something. So I called one of his best friends and I said, is David the kind of person who would try and test me and make me feel like an idiot? They said, no. I said, well, he walked into my room today and told me that he thinks this song is a hit. And they said, Nile, I promise you, if David said he thinks it's a hit, he really believes it's a hit. And I went, whoa. So I said to him, in a moment of, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a moment of brilliance, or maybe I was trying to keep my job. I don't know what it was, but I just said, hey, David, can I do an arrangement? And he went, sure. I was like, whoa, awesome. Now, we were in Switzerland, and the band Queen owned a recording studio in Switzerland, in Montreux, Switzerland, called Mountain Studios. So I wrote out some charts, and we hired some local jazz guys. And instead of going, I changed my guitar part to, which sounded sort of cool, but it still sounded a little folky, because on the guitar, on those frets, you get harmonics. So all I did was move it from just up a half step to, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, oh Google. Like all of a sudden it went from being live to sort of dead. And I was like going, man, this is cool. And then, what I hadn't told you was that David and I had countless conversations about jazz and about jazz artists and all the jazz people that he liked. So I knew that I could get away with, instead of going, I inverted the whole thing up an octave. I went, and then I put in a B flat minor 13 chord, which I knew he would love because he likes jazz. He would just think that was cool. So I went, and he was like, wow, that's my song? I went, yeah, now check this out. So then I just started jamming and started going. And then, and so after I said, well, I think these should be the chord changes. Let's make this the progression. He said, I love it. And I said, cool. We ran to the studio. I had all the charts written out. So that was just the audition session, just to see if he would say, I hate it or love it. And then I gave all the music to the band, to the players. You know, we didn't know any of the guys. They were just local studio guys. And it was very much like Let's Dance That You Know. And I remember asking him, David, do you think I made this too funky? And he said, the coolest thing I have ever heard in my life. I cherish these words. I cherish this artist. He's wonderful. He looked at me and went, Naya, darling, is there such a thing? I was like, you are the man. I get it. If we can ever reach that point of being too funky, we go to Nirvana or something. It was like, is there such a thing? Can you make a song too funky? Could you ever achieve that? I was like, so I obviously didn't make it too funky. The arrangement that I wrote out is exactly the arrangement we wound up playing back in New York. Didn't change anything. And that's the record we put out. Someone earlier asked me if there's ever any pressure on me to put out the outtakes of Let's Dance. I said, there is no outtakes of Let's Dance. We played it, we got it right, that's Let's Dance. There is no other version. That's the only one that exists.
So yes, I have two questions. The first one, you talk a bit about arrangement. I'm always a believer in Da Vinci's art is only ever abandoned, never finished. So I wanted to ask you, firstly, how you know when you've finished an arrangement. And secondly, you take a very progressive approach to collaborating and working with other artists. Obviously, anyone from Biggie to your recent collaboration with Martinez Brothers. I'm kind of curious whether you've thought about alternative licensing routes that you might take, such that once you are no longer with us, people continue to make Nile Rodgers music with your samples, and your estate enables that to happen.
You are so cool, because like I'm not waiting to die. I'm already, that's what I think the world is going towards. That's what I think the music business is going to become. That the old model of composition will still remain somewhat, but I think that the newer model, especially when I work with a lot of artists, and I go in there and they say, hey, Nile, listen to this track, and I'll listen and I go, I'm playing guitar on there. I just met you. Oh yeah, right. Well, we pulled that from the outtake. We found one of your tapes and it had this thing on there. So yeah, I think that we're in a sort of cut and paste world where we can take an idea from someplace and we can actually digitally take the full bandwidth sample. I mean, so I recently did a thing for the film Trolls, and I recreated something exactly, just so, not because they couldn't do it, but just so I wanted to give them the advantage of being able to do a whole full bandwidth representation of the music if they wanted to. If they didn't want to, you could just go back and get the sample. And speaking of Biggie, it's the song we did with Biggie, and you can go get that sample and just do that. But you know, the fact that it came up in that film and I just did this 2 weeks ago, and the fact that you brought it up today, although you were thinking I was thinking like that after I die, no, it's the way that the world is going. That's composition. That's what's going to happen. We're going to actually not only take the original motifs, but even the original recordings, and we'll redesign them and reorchestrate them and rework them. They'll become very malleable. I just finished a record with Elton John and Janelle Monáe that I composed in 4/4. The final version of it is in 6/8, and they never had to re-sing it again. I painstakingly took 2 weeks to make this thing move note by note by note, and it sounds letter perfect. And when you hear the next Chic album, if you happen to listen to it, listen to the song that's in 6/8, and remember that I cut that in 4/4.
Thank you.
It is such an honor to meet you. My name is Sanjay. I used to be a session pianist in Hollywood, and I was very poor, and I got tired, and I eventually came here. But
wow, a real step up.
And that's my point. I wasn't valued as a musician. I was not all my friends who were session players couldn't find work because music is being produced by like a single producer or DJ on Pro Tools or Ableton in their laptop at home. And so like there's this idea in Hollywood right now in the like instrumentalists feel like they're no longer important and they don't have a place in music anymore. I was curious, I think there is for like certain artists, right? If you go to tour with Beyonce, great.
Right.
But like that's like not even 1% of like artists, right? So it's just very difficult, like devoting your whole life to getting really, really good at violin to then never get sessions or never get work.
Right.
I was just curious what your thoughts are on this digital music ecosystem that's being built out and distributed, and the importance of like live recordings and how you kind of feel about what's going on from the recording standpoint.
So I understand where you're coming from, because that is real. That's absolutely real. But I think that somehow the world rights itself and we'll go to a new reality, sort of like what the gentleman just mentioned. We'll go to a new reality where, first of all, musicians have traditionally always been poor, bro. Right? So
Oh, I know.
the
I'm doing
only
both.
handful of lucky few that, when you decide to become a musician, you say, I have now committed myself to being poor. So, if you go into music thinking that I'm going to make a fortune, that's the wrong motivation. That's just wacky, makes no sense. But if you're lucky enough to make a living at it, and you can gig and you can do a church or you can work with Beyonce or whatever, that's amazing. But I think that music is so vital that as many platforms that exist now, all of them suck up music. It's almost like a black hole. There's a need for more and more and more and more music for some reason. Another song never actually has to be composed, and we have plenty of music. But that's just how it is. People want something new or something that appears to be new. So there's going to be a way that great violinists will have something to offer. I believe learn your instruments, learn them well, and if anything, you wind up just having a good time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a good time. I know you're at Google and everybody wants to be gazillionaires and all that, but it's also fun to have fun, So, this was going to be a hobby, sort of, but it was a hobby that I turned into a profession. I actually like doing it. I have more fun playing music free than I do the music I get paid for, because of the music that I get paid for, there has to be a result, whereas when I'm just home jamming, I'm having a blast. No one's criticizing me, and I don't have to turn it in by Friday.
Yeah.
I can tell L.A. Reid, yo, man, she didn't show up.
In the interest of time, we're going to do a few quick fire questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sorry.
So,
For how long you've been in the business and worked with so many different artists, and someone like David Bowie, where you worked with him twice at different points in his career, how has the
4 times.
4 times?
Yeah. Why'd you only think twice?
I thought I said twice.
No, I said, why did you only think twice?
Oh, because I thought it was Let's Dance and Black Tie White Noise.
Those are albums, but then
Oh.
I did Dancing in the Streets for Live Aid, him with Mick Jagger, and then I did a film for Bakshi called Cool World.
Oh, then that was my mistake. I apologize.
That's okay.
As a Bowie fan, I should be embarrassed right now.
It's not that I really, I'm like, no.
I apologize.
No, it's cool.
My question being is that, working with an artist over this amount of time and so many artists to now, how has the technology changed your approach as a producer, and how do you find it different in how to communicate with artists? Such as, is there a different expectation of you as a producer as there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and how does that affect how you work?
So it's interesting. The final outcome expectation is the same. They want to hit. I got that part. But because of the technology, like I just did a record with Laura Mvula, and she could see me on, on the computer while I was playing it, and I could do this inversion and do that and change it. So it felt like she was in the room. As a matter of fact, we just had at our last We Are Family event, we had a robot version of one of our sort of spiritual leaders, if you will, walking around the room, interacting with the kids. So we now can have a physical presence in the studio, even though I'm on a different continent. So I feel very comfortable working while the person is looking, over my shoulder on Skype, or if there's a robot in the room looking down at me and saying, hey, nah, what if you played it there? It feels very natural to me, and I think that over the next few years, it's going to feel even more organic. That sense of, a few milliseconds away will just feel normal. Does that answer your question?
I was more so with about like the technology as far as recording and things like that, and how the artists maybe view what your position as a producer is.
Well, I think the artists look at it in a similar way. You got to remember, artists are not just the same. I mean, there's a big difference between Bowie and Madonna or B-52. We're all different people. We all see the world through our own lens. But it feels, to me, it feels the same. Like I just finished working with, people that are like 18 years old, 19 years old, and it didn't feel any different than working with Lady Gaga or anyone else. It was the same. It's just, I just become smarter about more gear. There's just more gear. Plus, I just want gear anyway. It's like clothes. You just want more clothes. You want more gear. You just give me stuff to fool. Like, what does this button do? So we try. The thing is that with all the technology that we build, what are we trying to do? All we're trying to do is emulate the world that we've come from. Everything that we build, we make it to simulate the thing that was in the room. And that was the thing that we were trying to get around because it didn't work as well as it should. So it's a funny paradox, right? We're making gear that's sort of old-fashioned, this really high-tech gear to sound old-fashioned, and it was the old-fashioned stuff that we had to figure out, shit, what do we do to make this thing do that? Because it, in and of itself, can only do this. So.
Thank you. That explains it a bit better. Thank you.
Hi, it's a true honor to see you here. I'm a big fan, especially of your work with Duran Duran. I'm a huge fan of Duran Duran, so I love that you keep working with them. I wanted to ask about your guitar. You've talked in your blog about how you almost lost it on a train. You had to run and go to the police and go to the dispatch and everything. You finally found it, and you're trying to make a replica. Is that correct? Done. So what makes the Hitmaker so special? How did you guys come together?
Okay, so what makes this one special to me is because I traded a really big jazz guitar for it and got $300 back. And it was like, whoa, are you kidding me? I get $300 too? Like, I didn't know anything about solid body guitars when I bought this. I was a jazz guy and a classical guy. So I didn't know that this would have been considered a factory second. In today's world, they wouldn't have passed this. This wouldn't have passed the inspection. But in the year that it was built in 1959, Leo Fender, the guy who invented this company, was so cheap that if he saw a screw on the floor, this is a true story, if he saw a screw, he would pick up that screw and look around for something in the room to put the screw in. Like, that's how cheap he was. So there was no way he was letting this imperfect guitar not be sold. So I bought it at some cheap little pawn shop in Miami Beach. And it doesn't meet factory specs or anything like that. And it has what they call a hardtail. And that's because it's so thin that you couldn't put a whammy bar mechanism inside of it. So you just put the strings through the body. So my guitar is lighter than any Strat you've ever played. It weighs nothing. It was bought, the wood that they used to make it was not grown at sea level. Fender thought he was getting a deal, so he bought the wood, and it wasn't going to be the price as delivered. It was the price, but they had to go pick it up. And when they got to the farm where the wood was growing, it was up on a mountain. So when they got the wood back to the factory, it was dry enough to use right away. Whereas normally they would have the wood sit around for I don't know how long, but they used it right away. So this guitar was made. And then they probably tried to stretch the allotment of wood. So everything that went into making this thing wrong makes it so right that when I got it, to me, this is what a Fender Strat sounded like. So I then started playing everything with this because it sounded unique to me, and I thought all Fender Strats sounded like this until I went and bought my next one. Oh man, it was like nothing sounds like this. So yes, we have recreated it. It took us almost 20 years. We had to really take it apart. We had to consider the density of the wood, the moisture content, the electronics, which are totally just regular Fender, nothing fancy. The only thing that seems like it's fancy are these Gibson speed knobs, because back in the day, there were songs that we used to play like, and there was no dirt in my pot. But now we use a pedal to do it, but it was cooler to be in a nice smoky club and just go. So that's why they're on there. And this I put on because I just thought it looked cool. No reason other than that. It doesn't help with the shielding or anything. It just looked cool.
Thank you so much.
So can we take both of your questions together, just because we have to?
We're out of time. Ooh, so sorry.
Sure.
So
We'll speak at the
No,
same
no.
time. All right, you can combine these questions in one answer. Like many Googlers here, I'm involved in music, and I think I understand pretty well how to make notes work together. I'm a nerdy person. I understand notes pretty well. What I don't get at all is how you know when a song is going to be a hit. How you take an idea of a song and think, wait, somewhere in there, that's the hit sound people are going to like all over the world. How do you do that? And
my question is, throughout your career, all the music that you've heard, what bleeds in and what bleeds out of you to make your sound?
Wow, I think I understand that. The first one I totally understand. And the answer to that is, I don't know. You play the music, you compose the music, you perform it, and if it makes you really feel good, then you hope that it makes other people feel good too. Like, I don't know it. I think the only 2 or 3 times in my life, and I've had hundreds of singles, the only time that I knew for a fact a song was a hit was We Are Family. I knew it was a hit, absolutely knew it, because the guitar part was smoking. Le Freak, maybe because the guitar part was smoking. And what other song? Diana Ross. I knew I'm Coming Out was a hit, even though we put out Upside Down first. And in both cases with Diana Ross putting Upside Down out first, we did that because we knew that I'm Coming Out was a smash. So we wanted to get that one hit under our belt and then come with the smash after that. Same thing with We Are Family. We knew that We Are Family was so good that we had another record on there that was a smash called He's the Greatest Dancer. People don't realize He's the Greatest Dancer was a platinum single out of the box. But We Are Family was so big that people forget that He's the Greatest Dancer. They forget that I even did that song or that it even exists. But it was actually a monster hit. And what I believe you were saying, the stuff that emanates from the inside to the outside?
Yeah, like...
it's a very esoteric question.
Yeah,
bro.
All the music that you've heard in your life, like, what have you clung to? What have you, like, grasped to, like, this is the sound that I make? And
Okay, so the music that I've heard, all the music that I've heard in my life, I love bebop and modern jazz the best. Maybe fusion jazz, just because of the technical proficiency and stuff, but so is bebop. But I love classical music. I mean, I grew up on classical music. So that's what I practice. That's what I practice when I'm at home and I'm playing. When I want to just make myself feel good, I'll play like a Thelonious Monk tune. The other day, one of my keyboard players and I, we transcribed Eric Dolphy, a song called 17 West, because we couldn't find the chart for it. And then after we transcribed it, we looked it up on Google. And there was 17 West. It was like, oh, oops. We went through all that trouble, and there it was right there. Yeah, so that's what it is. I'm a, as Al Jarreau says, I'm a jazzer at heart. And that probably has a lot of influence on my pop music because I want things to be harmonically interesting. I am not a 3-chord rock guy, but boy, I sure appreciate Wild Thing. You know, I think that's amazing. I'm a 2-chord disco guy. Like our biggest hits were 2 chords. But it was just the way that we invert them and the way that we play them and the way that we interpret those 2 chords by building smooth voice leading, melodic passages by going from one chord to the next. You know, it's not like you just go, ah, that's the basic, but I play.
Yeah, and the jazz is there too. The jazz chords, the minor 7th chords are there, the 11th chord, and We Are a Family. All those jazz chords give the songs interest.
Right, like so a song like We Are Family, which is basically is just. Right, the 11th chord. But that ain't the guitar part is. See, that's fun to play. That is a hell of a lot more fun to play than just We Are Family. I got all my sisters. That's not fun, but that's fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Niall.
Thank you, bro.